We host a show called Mixed Take, and
Yes.
we just want to get right to this interview. First of all, amazing movie. We
Thank you.
loved it. But Wicked is a musical that you turned into an immersive fantasy experience. At
Yes.
least that's how we experienced it.
Good.
When did you get this vision to bring this iconic story to the big screen?
Well, I got to see Wicked when it was in San Francisco before it ever hit Broadway. So I was going to film school. My mom invited me out. When I was growing up, we'd see musicals every weekend. She really thought it was important for us. And so she's like, "Oh, this is Stephen Schwartz, new musical. He wrote Godspell and he wrote Pippin." And so yes, we were there. And I remember just being swept away by this show. I felt like I was even in a stage play, I felt like it was a cinematic experience. And so I was very jealous of the person who would one day get to make this. And every piece of iconography, the bubble, the yellow brick road, the witch, like to me, those evoked even further feelings because of how integrated Wizard of Oz is in our life and the story that we tell
Yes.
ourselves about this dream. This dream.
I love it. So, in follow up to that, I was watching a behind the scenes, and I'm
Yes.
going to quote you here. We built that shit. So, tell
Well, my
us
mom got
about.
mad at me for saying that, by the way. Even this
Sorry,
day.
Mrs. Chu. Sorry, Mrs. Chu. But I absolutely love that. I resonated because you're like, it's the yellow brick road and trees that you can climb on. Can you tell us why it was important to build a practical set instead of having lots of green screen options?
Yeah, we thought it was a privilege to present the Land of Oz. Very few directors get to do that, and to do that in a way that has never been done before. We've seen the matte painting version, we've seen
Mhm.
the computerized version, we've seen all these different stage versions, but the one we haven't done, and especially in this movie, because you have to believe in the real emotions of a relationship and the
Yep.
nuance ideas as we're trying to scratch at truth. So if it's going to need to feel true, then the world itself can't be pretend that we actually say we
Mm,
have to declare very early that this is not a dream, that you were
mm,
there, you were there. No, this is what it feels like to live there. So
Yeah.
that means we had to build the castle. When we drop you into the most famous crime scene ever put on film with the melted water, and you get to the iconic hat, that you had to believe that Munchkin Land wasn't just a land of people that were sort of silly and delightful, that Glinda had to care about these people, that these people were looking for leadership, that they're looking for the light, and the leaders are the ones who declare that and give that to them, so that later, when they're fighting for them, we have a reason for that. So the train, the 60-ton train that we built, the giant wizard head had to feel like a person from Earth could have built that or brought that to this magical land. So that was choosing the yellow for the yellow brick road took weeks and weeks and weeks, and so it was really fun to do.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago reading something or hearing you speak and saying that you had seen tweets of I think the Asian community just lamenting the fact that Hollywood didn't tell their stories, and so
Yeah.
you came to the realization you are Hollywood, and then you started telling stories of representation, within the Heights and other stories. At what point did you realize that you wanted to make a diverse Wicked story? And when did Cynthia Erivo become the right person in your mind?
Listen, I wanted to tell the most truthful story through my eyes, what it feels like to be different from others. And so it was not a
mhm,
conscious, like we have to hire this person or that person who looks like this and shit. All I know is when we're re-looking at a fairy tale, and we're actually reestablishing what a fairy tale means to us now, something that it's going to be timeless, that's going to live through generations, then it has to be looked through the lens of the world that we live in now. And because the old fairy tales did not include the people that the world, maybe that's what they lived in then, and the people who had the power to tell those stories. But this is 2024. And so for me, it was about hiring the best people. I didn't care what they looked like or what they thought, and who understood the stories of these characters most. And so Cynthia, when she came in and she sang Wizard and I, and she came in t-shirts and jeans,
mhm.
um, she looked like a little girl to me. She looked like someone yearning for a dream, and yet she could also take her voice and her acting to the highest heights. And she was like a super Marvel superhero. And to me, that dynamic is very difficult, no matter who you are and what you look like. And yet she also layered the such personal wounds in what it feels like for people to look at you at the skin of your because of the skin of your color. Now that added a layer that these words that I've heard millions of times suddenly felt very different. And of course, we wanted someone who understood what it felt like to live with a wheelchair, who when people tried to help you all the time, and you're like, I can do it. So we built these things into it because, again, we were scratching at actual real truths. We had to reflect that in the story. Michelle Yeoh, I mean, who else would I call to the role? Like, she's on my speed dial. I'm gonna get her. So it was all very natural. I think that's just, I try to reflect the world we live in. It's just it is what it is.
On our show, we talk almost exclusively about representation in Hollywood. So films, movies. Well, in our first season, you were actually our episode 8. We just talked, it was all about you. So all of the things that you brought from Crazy Rich Asians. And then the next episode, we were able to talk In the Heights. So thank you for your contributions. I love the fact that this movie is directed by an Asian American with Black and Latina leads. It is just such a heartfelt, beautiful, like you said, they were the creatives that rose, that they were the best individuals for all of these things. And I hope there are lots of Oscars for this film. This was wonderful.
Yes. I think they deserve all the flowers. They worked so hard, and we wanted to make a movie that felt like a movie that should have always been on our shelves, that was actually always sitting there, that you could pull off and put it in and be like, oh, wow, yes, that's right, this classic that we've never seen. And then, but it's so sharp in its urgency and relevancy to today that it was almost invisible in the actual sets of it. So all these people speak those truths through their acting, and I really appreciate and love being around. And that's not just them, that's the craftsmen and women that all built this thing, from Alice Brooks, who shot our movie, to Paul Taswell, who did the costume designs, to our choreographers, and everybody contributed to this.
Well,
Wonderful.
Yeah, thanks so much for taking time out, and all the best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And congrats on your new baby.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.